I'm calling to order the Public Awareness Personnel and Policy Committee of the Vallecitos Water District, Monday, April 4th, 2022 at 10 a.m. We are meeting at the district. We're meeting in person. It's nice to see you all. Do we have any members of the public in attendance? It doesn't look like we do.
No, it's just Matthias.
Okay, all right, then I will dispense with the notice to the public. And we will jump right into the agenda. First up is personnel, or do we need to take attendance? We don't usually do that for committee. All are present. First is personnel, and it looks like we have no items for personnel. Second is public awareness, new business, discussion on drought level 2.
Yeah, I think Chris is going to take that. And apparently while I was on vacation for a week, things changed in the drought.
Yeah, just a little bit. What are you showing? Oh, microphone.
Thanks, James. Yeah, so we'll just have a little discussion on drought alert level 2. So did this advance? Or do I need to choose a different screen? Yeah, if you can both bear with us, the technology is a little bit different doing this hybrid than it was with a regular virtual meeting. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't get a real chance to test out the staff table again. So governor's executive order the other day on March 28th, you know, I think we're all aware we've had the driest 3 months ever in the history of recorded for California. So Governor Newsom took steps to drive water conservation down to the local level. He's asking for water districts such as ourselves to move to level 2 of their water shortage contingency plan or their drought ordinance. And he's also directing the State Water Resources Control Board to look at what I would call decorative grass, especially for commercial industrial type customers, to see if those will still be allowable. They may come up with some sort of legislation to plan not to be able to irrigate those anymore. Our specific drought level 2 ordinance, it's typically when we're trying to achieve a 20% reduction. And I put the text up there and tried to highlight the specific parts that were important. It applies when we're notified that due to drought or a water conservation mandate, which he really hasn't said, but he's implied, and he's asking for that. And typically what we would do in a drought alert level 2 is enhance public outreach and awareness for the level 2 practices. It does require a board action to invoke a level 2 condition. And then residential, commercial, landscape irrigation would be limited to no more than 3 assigned days per week, starting in June, and no more than 2 days per week, November through May. So we would limit people to 2 days per week. We could do that. There's not a specific requirement of how we would do that within the ordinance. In the past, we've done that voluntarily, just tell people 2 days per week, but we can do, you know, odd or even street address, or we could do residential certain days and businesses on other days and so forth. It's really to reduce consumption. I don't think we really have a supply problem here, but that's what it's set up to accomplish. One of the other parts about our existing drought ordinance level 2 is that we would put drought rates into effect at the drought alert rate. Now, we haven't invoked that yet, but I am working with finance staff, and we're getting close to the point of bringing new rates to the committees and the board, and that those drought rates would therefore be included in that. So it's just something for this committee to talk about and probably make a recommendation to the board at some point based on the governor's action. I will also share that regardless of whatever drought level we're in, we always have these permanent water use restrictions. These are kind of the big ones. You know, we want people to irrigate in the morning and the evening, not when it's raining. Don't have overspray and runoff. No washing down sidewalks and driveways. Restaurants are supposed to serve water only on request. And hotels, we only have like 3 or 4 in town, but they've all been notified, you know, hey, give customers the option to not have their laundry done daily, you know, hang up your towel, that kind of thing. So those are in effect at all times, all the time, regardless of what sort of drought level we're in. And that's my presentation, and I'd like to take any questions.
And I would like to add that we're not really staffed up for enforcement. This is really difficult when we start getting into level 2 and above and beyond. When we start looking at things like number of days a particular property can irrigate, we don't have water police out there to be able to do that. If you go into really high levels, we may have to redeploy people or bringing on additional resources, depending what the governor says our requirements are as a local agency. But I just want the committee to know that we don't have a team of people ready to go out there and do this. So we'd have to figure out, if we wanted to really tighten up enforcement, how we would get that done.
Okay. So you said that it does require an act of the board to declare drought level 2. And I appreciate that you've posted these. It's very clear, you know, what the restrictions are that are always in effect. Is there a way to list out some practical ways that if someone wanted to reduce by 20%, you know, what that might look like? I think making it as concrete as possible for people is a good idea. Is there a way to do that and push it out, put it on the website or something?
And I think Alicia could create a video. I think she created one to get us like 10% reduction. Like, what does that equate to? What do you need to do? And, you know, with 20% value, you know, it's like a fifth. So what is the 1/5 thing that you can, you know, not do? Maybe a family of 5, the one kid doesn't get to shower. You know, and I'm joking, but I'm semi-serious at the same time. It's, you know, it's sort of kind of that way of, you know, okay, what's the 1/5 bite you're going to take out of your family budget of water, and figuring out how you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Well, simple things like, you know, going from a 5-minute shower to a 4-minute shower, that's a good reduction right there, right? That's a 20% reduction in water use for the shower component. So, but yeah, we can add things like that to a video.
Yeah, and I'm certain Alicia could produce something in fairly quick order.
I just think it's really helpful because it begs the question. You know, there are people that want to do it, that want to participate, and they want to do the right thing.
Right.
But they're like, I don't know what that means.
True.
So, and you know, and they may sort of default to something sort of draconian, like, yeah, that means I take 1 fewer shower.
Right.
And, you know, they may not be as interested in participating if
Right.
their mind goes to something like that. So,
More deodorant, less water.
Right. That's right.
what questions do you have?
So I did have a few. So when we declare a drought rate 2, or when the governor does, is there a time frame? Does he say until October? Is there a time frame on that? Or?
He specifically asked the agencies to do it, and there's typically some sort of event that brings you back out of a drought. A lot of times, the most recent one where we came out of it was, you know, we had pretty fabulous rains, and you know, everything kind of filled back up again, and we ratcheted back down.
So he didn't. At the time, he doesn't. But okay, we're going to go on.
Yeah, typically there's
until October or whatever.
You're waiting for the hydrologic condition to improve to the point where you don't need to do that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can anticipate what our hydrologic conditions are going to be like until the fall. We're not going to get much rain, so okay, I think we're going to be in this, and maybe worse, for the duration of the summer.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And then drought rates, is that just the higher tier rates? Is that what happens?
It's mostly like an add-on, and we had to switch from 4 drought rates. The state wanted 6. So the 1 drought rate is voluntary. There's nothing there. We'll erase that one. There's kind of this extreme drought, which is level 6, which really would be really extreme, as if some of the infrastructure that's bringing water around the state were compromised by earthquake or something like that. That one's pretty draconian. Would the California ever get to that? You know, I'm not really sure, unless there was an earthquake or something. We can kind of erase that one. we clumped the other two. I worked with Mike, like Star Trek now. We clumped the other two into, two different clumps. And I don't remember exactly what it is. I'm sure Mike probably does. But
Now, is that
I
based
think
on
it's
an
like a
owner's-
20-cent additional charge to your HCF.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Is there a blanket charge, or is it based on a previous owner's usage, and if they are using more?
Yeah, it'll be a price per unit surcharge, just like Chris says. We'll
Yeah.
keep the regular rates in effect, and we'll add whatever, depending on the tier you're at, or,
Okay.
I'm sorry, depending on the drought level
Per
you're at.
unit.
But it'll apply to all tiers. So it's not just penalizing tier 3 usage, it'll also hit tier 1, tier 2 usage.
And a question on that is, I mean, it seems like we're punishing those that use more water. Is there a way to incentivize those that are using less water? So if I'm using, I don't even know how many gallons, but I'm using 10,000 gallons a week, whatever. And if I'm using now 6,000 gallons a week, because my kid doesn't take a shower, is my rate, well, I guess my rates are gonna go down.
Yeah.
But there's nothing we can incentivize that,
No,
like,
it's
hey,
kind
your
of-
lower rates are gonna even go down?
No,
The higher rates are gonna go up?
It's kind of self-incentivizing. You use less, you get a lower bill than you otherwise would, but there's no bonus that you get for it.
I'm more of a positive reinforcement guy,
Yeah,
so I don't know, I was
you're a
looking at
carrot
positive
guy.
instead of a
Yeah.
negative,
Yeah.
okay, all right. And then, one question on the city. The city, I know they put in that funky grass a while ago. Is that working? Is that saving? I mean, somebody, like you said, if somebody
Is
stops.
that some of the buffalo grass that they
Yeah,
put
is that
in?
what it is? That grass that
Yeah.
they only mow, whatever, once a month?
Yeah, buffalo grass works really well in certain applications.
I mean, did the city use a lot of less water?
I haven't really looked at their consumption because they're such a big organization. I
I
haven't
know, that's what I'm
looked at
wondering. I
it.
mean, if people do that, we're asking them to put in, turf instead of real grass or other alternatives, I don't know.
We could reach out to the city and find out what their experience has been like, or we can help them if they say, hey, we planted buffalo grass in these areas, they're connected with these meters. We can see if their usage went down over time. We can look for that data.
Yeah, and Director Pennock, I think that's typically applied in more of a,
Industrials,
well,
commercial.
that you would not play sports on that.
No.
Just, okay.
That'd be tough
As
to
long
get.
as we
Yeah,
got
that's some rough. There'd be,
Yeah.
my 9-iron would not go
Right,
through that.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Understood.
Also, Director Pennick, the city actually uses groundwater wells some portions of the year.
See,
and
that's
they-
what- yeah,
And
that's
they
another
usually
thing.
run out, and then usually sometime in the summer or fall, they have to turn over to the irrigation meters. So our records of them are more sporadic.
Oh,
they're
interesting.
pending how much rain we got locally, and then how hot the year is.
Because they're using reclaimed water, huh? They're using.
Not reclaimed, but they have some groundwater wells,
Yeah.
that basically
Oh.
it's coming, they're next to the creek. So it's basically coming from the groundwater, it percolates from the creek.
I think Mission Sports Park has some groundwater, doesn't it?
Yeah, even the baseball fields use groundwater wells, but they.
Do they?
Because of the athletic fields, the groundwater's not high quality, it usually burns the grass, so they usually in the summertime, they have to turn over to the regular water to leach all the salts out.
Oh, that makes sense why it's not that beautiful lush green. It's over there. It's pretty. Gotcha. Okay. No, thank you. I just had a couple of those questions. Thanks.
So you're looking for a recommendation from us to move to drought level 2, and we would recommend that, and then it would go to the full board. Is that right? Is that the recommendation?
Yep, yeah, we'll probably be, it's too late to take it on this Wednesday's meeting, so we'd probably be targeting the April 20th board meeting if the committee thinks
Yeah,
that's
based
appropriate.
on, I'm not one for like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, more of a voluntary thing for the city, I guess. That would be my recommendation, if you're good with
But
that.
to move to drought level 2 on a voluntary basis.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the process,
Right,
right?
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I concur.
You may recall that I have the authority to go to drought level 1, and we did that a couple months ago, I think it was, and anything beyond drought level 1 requires the full board, and
Okay. That's
Yeah, I'm good with that.
yeah, then I think that's our recommendation, that we
Okay.
take it to the full board. And I know that Alicia's very busy, but if she could put something together to really show folks what that looks like to help.
And the really nice thing is I believe she has one that talks about that. And I think she can just modify one to kind of ratchet it up a little bit. It's the same
Right.
images and things.
Okay.
You're just changing the text a little bit. And so I think that can be done in short order.
And I like these permanent water use restrictions. I wonder if, for example, I just took a snapshot of this, and I'm going to be posting it on my personal Facebook page, because I think that this is something that a lot of people forget. You know, I do see people, you know, cleaning off their driveway with their hoses. I still see people doing that in my neighborhood.
So now you know you can give me a call and I'll reach out to them.
Yeah, well, they are my neighbors. I have to see them.
It's true, it's true.
Anonymously.
We
Right?
won't tell them where
And
we get the
I never
tip.
tell,
Yeah.
I never tell who sent it.
But yeah, I mean, this is a really helpful reminder for people to, you know, to make sure that they are, you know, trying to conserve water, and these are good ways to do it.
Yeah, and if you see restaurants handing out water, the restaurant industry, they're really good about it because it just costs them money to provide the water if you're not going to drink it. So if you see that happen, let me know. I'll reach out and talk to the restaurant. Most of them, you know, the training goes away. They implement it, and then the staff turnover over the years, and then they lose it. So if you do see that out at a restaurant, please let me know, and I'll reach out to them.
And Director Boyd Hodgson, you said, make it easy for people to do the right thing. I'm paraphrasing what you said, but I think most people do want to do the right thing. And I think our job is to make it easier for them to do that right thing.
Yeah, just let them know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an education issue. Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you for this presentation, and thanks for your work on this and making it easy. Because I think, you know, we do have to make it an easy lift for folks, and then they'll do it. Okay. Anything else on discussion on Drought Level 2? Okay, hydration station partnership event with the City of San Marcos on Saturday, May 7th. I'm excited about this.
Switch over the presentation.
Hydration.
We'll be switching over the presentation.
Saturday, May 7th.
Can I get back to share
I
screen?
don't know that one. I thought we already did that.
The dogs. This is the dog.
Thanks, Jake.
Because I know they're installed, so is it just like people walking the street?
It's a dog event
Oh,
to celebrate the dog bowl part of it.
gotcha.
Got it.
Hydration for
There it is.
doggies.
It's not as
So
nice
it's a four-legged
looking as I
one.
hoped it would be. Oh, well.
The four-leggeds.
Okay, so, okay. This is the, Lisa Urabe reached out to the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, applied for a grant to put hydration stations in city parks. She worked with Park and Rec staff to identify which parks would be appropriate. The hydration stations need to be sturdy enough to withstand, you know, public use. And she also added in the dog bowl that would be at the bottom of the hydration stations. So we did get this grant, I think $25,000 from Metropolitan. It gets passed through to the County Water Authority, gets passed through to us. The city actually had to pay to install them. So this whole reimbursement where this money keeps passing along is making its way, and I think we made, General Manager Pruim approved payment for it just the other day. We're sending the check over to the City of San Marcos, but this is a real nice thing for us to accomplish, getting a grant on behalf of the City of San Marcos, but also gets more people to use tap water rather than bottled water, which we try and reduce. And also it helps both of the reduction in plastics that we have implemented here, as well as the reduction in plastics over at the City of San Marcos. And so Mayor's staff was interested in doing some sort of event to commemorate that these hydration stations have been put in. And initially, I reached out to Lisa, and my thought was, what are we gonna do? Is anybody gonna show up because we put in a fountain at a park? And, you know, she spent an hour or two mulling it over and got back to me and said, well, everybody likes dogs, so why don't we, you know, tie in the dog hydration station portion of it, and so let's have a dog event there. So she's reached out to quite a few dog adoption agencies. I'm not sure I have them all memorized, but I think Labs and More and some other ones. they'll be there. She reached out to the sheriffs, crossing fingers here, but at this point, they're supposed to have some of their canine units do a demonstration and so forth. We just talked to Camp Run-A-Mutt, have them come out. So kind of a dog event where we're recognizing that the hydration stations were put in, but the draw is that it's a dog adoption event and a dog presentation event. It's set up for May 7th over at Woodland Park. That was the one that the city decided was the best one for this specific event. Lisa's met with their park and rec staff. There are permits that are required for this type of thing, but the city's taking care of all of that for us. Lisa's gonna actually get some dog cookies, and I'm hoping they can stick the Vallecitos logo on the dog biscuits, you know?
Awesome.
So they're gonna eat our logo, but you know, it just seemed like a kind of the fun thing to do. And only from 10 to 12, kind of a short event. Probably great to have Vallecitos board members there, as well as City of San Marcos council members and mayor. And so that's our little event coming up in a month or so.
I'm so excited about this event, and congratulations to Lisa for getting the grant and implementing it and thinking about, thinking about how to really promote it
Yes.
in a way that's very family friendly.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely be there. We adopted our dog from Labs and More. I've been a foster with them for the better part of, I don't know, a year and a half, and we foster failed and ended up adopting our dog
Wow.
from them. So I will bring Lucky. And I think this sounds like such a great event and just a real coming together. You know, people are wanting to get out and see other people, and you're right, everybody loves dogs. So what a great job. Thank you, Lisa, for your work on that, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think adding the dogs in was ingenious, because I would have come up with something, and the tumbleweed would have rolled through and nobody would be there, but Lisa's got that creativity that I lack.
So I learned a new phrase today, foster fail? Is it?
Foster fail.
That's what they call it?
That's where you take in a dog to foster and you end up keeping it.
I never heard that phrase.
Yeah, you end up adopting it.
I would call it foster love instead of
Yeah.
foster fail, because you fell in love with the dog. That is.
Well, thank you. Any comments about that?
No comment. Depending on the only concern, hopefully they have it reserved, because there's a lot of families that go there early to Woodland Park, and they put up all the chairs, and they've got, piñatas, and they got stuff, and the parking is terrible. So I don't want to be a rain on a beautiful event, and it should be, but I don't know if they've thought about parking and locations, because it's usually a busy park on a Saturday afternoon in May.
Talked to staff at the city, and they seem to be taking care of
All right.
those logistics for us.
And that would be a good concern, is lack of parking, because it's such a busy
It
event.
means people are there, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to mention, we do have quite a few water bottles that we've kept. They're kind of nice ones with the faucety looking, the garden faucet looking caps on them. They would typically be used for Water Academy, but we haven't done one in years due to COVID. And I was out at we got in the succulents before the community event, which we attended yesterday, and Craig Durbin, one of our collection staff, is helping out in the warehouse, and he pointed it up to me. You got water bottles up there, so we'll be giving away those water bottles at the event. And the good thing is just like anything else, things can get old and start to break down, and so we'll give out those ones, and if we get back to having a Water Academy, we'll order new ones, because we don't want them to shatter when people start to use them. So we have a giveaway for it.
Nice.
Great. That sounds like a great event. Congratulations on coordinating that, and I'm looking forward to it. Any other comments? You gonna be there?
I am. I'm not as excited as you, but I will be there.
2 hours.
Okay, old business. Update on the Valdine program.
Yeah, so great news. Today, in 2 hours and 15 minutes, the program will be kicking off.
Oh,
That's
great.
cool. It's at 12:40 today. So the school that was selected is La Costa Meadows. It's a 5th grade class. The teacher's name is Jean Pruitt, so familiar name. It's my wife. So her and Bill Dean,
perks, right?
yeah, her and Bill Dean have gotten together on several occasions and coordinated. So it's kicking off today, and it's a whole series of events. I think it's like 2-week-long programs. It's about an hour a day. Bill will be there. My wife will be there. Either Chris Robbins or Chris Tapia, someone from our meters department, will be there on Wednesday to help the kids understand how water is billed and metered and delivered and all of that. There will be a wastewater component too that I think that may be the Leucadia service area, so it won't be us, but we'll be helping out. I'll probably go and attend one of the classes as well. So really excited about it. It's nice to see something come to fruition, and thank you all for your support on that. It's exciting.
Good.
Great.
More kids learning about water, and you know, when children are in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, they start to really focus on things bigger than themselves. You know,
Yep.
they're at the developmental stage where they focus on things that are bigger than themselves. So we're really hitting them at an opportunity where they can learn and grow and become interested in the environment and water, and hopefully grow up and work in water and help preserve our planet for future generations. So excellent news. I'm glad that's kicking off. Any comments?
Oh, I agree 100%. It is exciting, thank you.
Okay, policy, new business, water leaks on the customer side. So this is something that I requested be put on an agenda. It's something that I hear a lot from my constituents. You know, if they have a water leak, they want to better understand how it's fixed, how it's determined who's responsible for what payment, because oftentimes it's costly for them. So it's a concern that's been brought to my attention, and I wanted to better understand it. So when they come to me, I can explain it a little bit better too.
Okay, so there's a bureaucratic answer, then there's the kind of the helpful, we help the customers answer. Bureaucratically speaking, anything on the customer side of the meter is their responsibility, right? Having said that, we always try to help people. If people contact us and say, hey, my water consumption's high, or our billing people sometimes notice that too. We do comparisons between particular customers' bills in any given month in either the previous month or same month last year. And if we see anomalous readings, then we'll reach out sometimes. So sometimes we initiate the process. And we'll try to work with the customer to figure out what's causing the overconsumption. Sometimes it's a break on the irrigation side. Sometimes it's as simple as somebody set the irrigation controller incorrectly, so it's going on twice a day instead of once a day. Sometimes the gardener gets in there, the gardener has control of the landscape meter, and he gets paid to make your lawn look good, which is not consistent with trying to lower your water consumption. So we'll try to walk the customer through all those possible reasons for it. If it's determined to be a break, we'll kind of politely tell them that it's their responsibility to have it fixed. We do offer a program. It's a one-time bill adjustment that if somebody has like an irrigation break, and if they can demonstrate to us that they had an irrigation break, that we will adjust their bill. They still pay for all the water that goes through the meter, but they won't pay anything at Tier 3 rates. So if they had a break and it ran nonstop for many days and they're way into Tier 3, we'll adjust the bill so all the Tier 3 usage is billed at Tier 2 rates. And that's really significant because we have a really high Tier 3 rate. It's almost double our Tier 1 rate. Maybe it's a little bit more than double. So, but that's a one-time leak adjustment. We've done it more than once, but we tell the customers it's a one-time thing. But if 5 years later they have another problem, we'll probably do it again. But if it's a recurring problem with a particular customer, they need to get their house in order, so to speak. We do offer irrigation audit, landscape audits. Chris kind of coordinates that for us, Chris's group. If people want to if they're having overconsumption and it's not related to a leak and they want to look at their outside irrigation, I believe it's Mission Resources, Chris?
Yes.
Is that the group? So they'll come in, it's a third party, they come in and they'll actually do an outside irrigation audit to help the people get their consumption back in line. Give them rules of thumb of how often they should be irrigating. We often have people that come here.
How is that paid for?
I don't know. We pay
a partial. The water authority kicks in half of it. It typically costs us about $50,
which is really a really good deal for the district. If we were to do it ourselves, it would cost much more than that.
Yeah, it's surprising, and my experience, the personal experience I've had with some of these audits, oftentimes people set their irrigation controller to irrigate every day for like 10 to 15 minutes a cycle, way more than you need to irrigate, but people just don't know. So just simply setting those things right, and that may be a good future video too, to tell people what are good settings based on time of year and those types of things.
That's a great idea, yeah.
There are things that we do to try to help people, but at the end of the day, the water that goes through the meter is the responsibility of the customer. So with that, there's a little bit of background. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, I've had one of those audits done, and I found it really helpful. This is the first place that we've lived where we had an irrigation system, so we just didn't know. And we have a small plot of grass, and we have a hillside that is not grassy, but we still irrigate it. So we just didn't know. So it was really helpful. They sent out a report afterwards that sort of outlines good tips. So, but I do think that a video helping the customers would be really useful if we could pull that together. Just because I'm sure I'm not the only person that is new to the area and not sure how much to water, not sure how much rainfall we get. So I think that that's a great idea. I'm happy to hear about the bill adjustment. That makes sense, and that's a benefit to the customer. When a customer reports a leak, what does that look like for Vallecitos to come out? And I know that in the past, when my neighbors have reported it to me, and I've made the call and said, I've got a neighbor who thinks they may have a leak. I know Vallecitos is very quick to respond, so thank you for that. But what does it look like after that? What do they do when they go out?
Chris, did you want to handle any of that, or you want me to take a shot?
Well, billing handles a nice portion of this, and they have algorithms within the billing system that say, hey, this doesn't look right. This requires attention, and metering staff will often go and take a read to check, make sure the parameter is correct, and then either drop a door hanger, or I think they're trying to enhance the process by sending out a mailer now. I know Chris is working on, and this is a problem because there's two Chris's. There's me, Chris, in front of you, and Chris Tapia in meters, and every once in a while we bump into, they were looking for one of us rather than the other one of us. But he wants to expedite it by having a mailer, a postcard go out so it can happen quicker, and they don't have to roll the truck over there and spend the gasoline on it.
Okay.
James?
So it actually happened to me a couple years ago. I had a leak on my system in the irrigation. I had no idea. I had a door hanger, and our meter reader happened to be driving by, and he stopped to say hi, and I was looking at my door hanger, and I'm like, wait, my water bill went up twice as high as it used to be. So it went from $120 to $240. And he actually showed me to open the box how I could tell I had a leak. Right in the meter, you could see the little, before it was digital, you could see the little tattletale meter keep on going around. And then obviously I had to find the leak itself. After I found the leak, I went to customer service and they did the one-time bill adjustment for me. So I went through that same process. It was very seamless. I actually had to do the work to fix the leak, or hire a plumber to do it, or a landscaper, but that part was the most painful. The bill adjustment and location leak, that was painless.
Okay, that's a good story, and that's good to know. And in thinking back about potentially having a video about this, having maybe that in the video where here's how you can possibly know if you have a leak. That might be helpful if we could work that in. If that's a reliable way to tell, then that might be a good idea so that customers can, I don't know that we don't want customers opening the box by themselves, but having someone, showing a Vallecitos worker go out and open the box and the customer looks in, something like that.
One of the things we're looking at, I don't think it's this fiscal year, I think it's a tactical plan initiative for next year though, is to look into automated meter reading. So that's where you get to, you have to have different types of meters that do instantaneous reads. So right now we go out and we collect reads, we do a drive-by once a month, right? So if you had a leak the whole month, we wouldn't know. But if you had the right hardware out in place, we'd be reading your meter instantaneously, and then we can see if you have constant usage, we can notify the property owner really quickly. These are multi-million-dollar expenditures on the part of the district with the meter register and the antennas and the repeaters that have to go in there. So but it's something that'll be coming, staff will be working on it and then eventually be coming to the board to see if that's something we want to do. I think we're going to be forced into it as we go into more and more droughts and water conservation becomes a bigger and bigger thing, that we're going to have to find a better and better way to help our customers prevent wasteful water use practices. And a lot of it's not through any malicious act on the part of, on the customer side, or it's just because something's happening that they didn't know, a leaky toilet, a broken sprinkler head, a controller that doesn't shut off, things like that. So that's something we're looking at, but again, it's a bigger effort that's not something we can implement real quickly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for that background.
Is there other districts using that now?
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm
That's what I was
sorry,
wondering.
it's AMI, Automated Metering Infrastructure.
Right.
Livenhain does it. They actually cooperate with us. They ask our permission to put one of their antennas on one of our tank sites. So we worked with them. It's up in the San Alejo area. So we'd probably we'd meet with them, learn their experience. We'd talk to vendors. We'd crunch the numbers. And at the end of the day, one of our board members is famous for looking for return on investment. Is there a return on investment, meaning money? And there's not. It's just a great customer service tool. There's some benefits from our perspective. We don't have to be sending a meter reader out to actually drive around and run the route, but that cost is minimal in comparison to the overall cost of the program. But it's a great tool to help customers reduce their consumption.
And each home has to have something installed then?
Well, yeah, so each home has a meter, each home, and there's a register on it, and it already does. Some of them won't need to be upgraded, some of them will, because they already have a radio capability, so that when we do a drive-by, the reader, in the old days, you used to have to get out, pop the meter lid, read the dial.
The old tennis ball, you know, you
Yeah,
use a tennis ball to
right.
clean off the...
Yeah, so now it's not, they just drive by, they have to be in close proximity, and then the register on the meter will communicate with the collector in the vehicle that drives by, and you'll get your read. And
They just have to be in the proximity, so
Right.
they still have to do...
right,
that's
so
a
have
lot
to drive every street in the service area. The more advanced technology is you have antennas, kind of like cell phone antennas throughout the service area that pick up these electronic reads. And I don't know all the specific technology. Chris Tapia would be the guy that would educate me and the board ultimately on how many of our registers and meters would have to be replaced in addition to constructing these towers and antennas and repeaters and all that stuff. And that's what adds up to the millions of dollars.
How many multi-million have you...
I'm guessing 5-ish, so you're probably in the 5 to 10. As time goes on, as we start replacing meters through normal meter replacement, and as new meters come on, they have the more advanced technology already that would allow us to communicate with these. So you wouldn't have to be replacing the meters, and maybe the register wouldn't have to be replaced either. But you'd still have to put up the antennas, the towers, and all the kind of the back of house stuff to collect all those reads. But it is a great tool, and that's what can really help when you start getting the data analytics that will computers run all the time, right? And they could be looking at every account every day and say, hey, this meter hasn't stopped running. There's something going on at that house that meter, and then we can instantaneously contact a customer maybe through an app that say, hey, you may want to check your whatever because you have a constant water use. People may not take shorter showers or anything because of it, but if we can reduce that wasteful water practice, that would be great.
I think it's also about managing expectations too. I mean, part of the frustration that the folks that I've had that I've spoken with is that they just didn't know.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it's thousands of dollars.
Yep.
And they just had no idea that it was happening because it was under their driveway or something like that. So they couldn't even really see it. So, managing the expectations and being able to do that in real time so that if someone has a leaky toilet and you say, hey, you're using a lot of water, then the customer can make a decision, okay, well, I really should get that fixed. Or if they don't get it fixed, then they're not surprised that they've had an excess of water.
The downside about the technology, and this is just anecdotally in speaking with general managers of other districts that have AMI, is that not a lot of the customers use it. So when you have an AMI system, it'll usually have an app and people can log on and monitoring. But what I'm hearing is only like 10 to 15% of the customers actually log on to bother using it. So the district invested millions of dollars in this technology, and a small segment of the community is using it. So that's that kind of return on investment, whether it's dollars or just participation in the program. And it'd be Chris's job to try to, how do we get better usage? How do we get more people to use this?
But would there be incentives to the district if we show that we are reducing our water usage as a whole, and this tool would help us do that? Then could there be some incentives from San Diego Water or MTA or something like that paid out to the district?
In the old days, when AMI was a kind of an emerging technology, there were grants available to pay for things like that. I think we're beyond that now, and there may still be some money, and we'll certainly pursue that. If there's funding available, we'll look for it. But in terms of besides grants, they're not going to reward you, but I think it's going to get where that's the new expectation. They're going to expect that every district have these tools in place to make sure that there's not wasteful water practices. So whether it's a carrot or a stick, it's kind of back to that conversation. The state usually uses the stick approach, and then we have to do what we have to do to comply with their regulations that come out. And those regulations aren't here now, but every year we do, and I think it's in the September, October timeframe, we do like a water, what's it called, a water loss audit?
Yeah, yeah.
So we do this rigorous process that looks at how is water being put to beneficial use? Are we using the right amount of water for our population, our customer base? So I think keeping those things in reserve, those tools in reserve, will help us meet those objectives, because right now the state's just gathering data, but pretty soon they're going to use that data to start making new regulations and enforcements, and that may be the time when we'd want to wait to pull that AMI tool out of the toolbox. Because if you do it too early, then the state's going to say, well, what have you done for me lately? Yeah, you did that AMI. What else have you got? So from a timing perspective, sometimes it's better to wait to implement new technology until there's a regulation you'll get credit for it. Unless if you don't think the regulations are ever going to come, you may want to just do it because it's the right thing to do, and it is the right thing to do. But that'll be unfolding over the course of the next year.
Okay, thank you for that background.
Just a quick, I mean, I don't know if that's the right time, but you brought up hot water. I mean, I know I spend a ton of water turning it on, you know, I go shave, I go do something else while my water's, you know, heating up and getting ready to take a shower. Does anybody have a tankless water heater?
I do.
And how
not.
quickly they do? I mean, is it instantaneous?
Well,
the water gets hot?
I wouldn't say it's, yeah, it's still got a length of pipe, so there's a pipe that runs from the water heater, whether it's tankless or a regular tank, that has to go to the outlet, right? So that, and over a period of time, that portion gets cold. So now you got to run hot water from where it's generated through that length of pipe, which could be several minutes. Now,
several minutes, yeah.
Right, but there's other technology called water recirculation pumps, which connect to like the furthest tap in the house, and that's constantly recirculating water so that water in that stretch of pipe is always hot.
Because I feel bad all the time, and I'm guessing multiply that by the number of households that are letting that, I mean, is there anything we can do?
So here's my plan for you. You have 1 or 2 showers in your house?
More.
Okay, so a Home Depot bucket and a Lowe's bucket.
Well, see, I know that.
And catch that warm up water and take it outside, and you've just built your own gray water system for $5. It's real simple. It's really easy.
That's a ton, because I'm on there's a lot of pipe.
Takes a long time.
Yeah, we're talking more like 7 or 8 5-gallon buckets. And then I'm spilling it on the carpet on the way down. Then I got to pay a carpet guy. You know.
The other one is here's the Chris Robbins technique is, you know, you just have to gut it out and get in there.
So do you do that? Do you seriously fill a 5-gallon bucket every time you take a shower?
No, I gut it out and get in there. I did the 5-gallon bucket thing for a long time.
I got it. I can take.
But I got the same thing from my wife of, you know, you're slapping that on the stairs. And so
See?
I just kind of have a rule that I just have to get in there.
Yeah.
Director Bryant, the way the recirculation pumps work is if you know that it's your shower and you take a shower at 6 a.m., it's on a timer. So you can have it turn on at like 5:45 in the morning, and it'll pump for 15 minutes. And it'll basically put that cold water and
And
pump it
that's
around.
just a
so hot
simple
water-
install down by the,
It's- Yeah, it's a simple install. You put it at, and it's on a timer. The ones that most homeowners use are on a timer. At most commercial places, it's a constant. But most homeowners use it's on a timer. So it'll turn on for a certain amount. You set the time, it turns on, it pumps. Now you are heating more water because of it, technically.
So your energy.
On the days that you
Yeah.
don't take showers or days that you're off that timing, it'll only work in that time zone. So in other words, if it's typically Monday through Friday and it's this time you want instant or fairly close to instant hot water, you set that timer. So, good 15 minutes before that time that you'd be in the shower, and it works. And then if it is the last fixture in your house, then the whole house, for most part, will have almost instant hot water.
I mean, that just seems like an educational thing, because I don't know. I know I use a ton of water just heating it up. And I don't know, gut it out or put on my wetsuit or turn on that.
So now you're going to use a little bit of electricity.
So those with solar and with high water bills is perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, it's auto circ, and I can send you a link.
And that's a simple install.
Well, you do have to have an electrical
Yeah.
you need to be able to plug it in near that furthest.
And what's the cost to a homeowner?
I think the device itself you could probably get out of there for about $150.
Or less. It depends on how big it is.
Yeah.
I think there's cheaper ones, but you're right. You need an electric outlet, and then you need to put it in line with a hot water feed. And then there's a little bit of plumbing because it will end up pushing that hot water into the cold water side, and then pumping it around.
Yeah, there's a cross connect from the hot and cold with a valve in there and the pump, and you need a plug. It's not an easy DIY.
But I don't know, if we're truly concerned about conserving water, you multiply the households that use their water like I do, I don't know, that's a ton of water that we let go down the drains. I think, I don't know.
So one good approach is to work with the city and have the building codes changed, so all new homes are required to put in things like that.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
an
I know
easier way
yeah.
to do it. Doesn't fix the existing homes, but a way to look at new homes, whether.
And what's
they
that
be-
called? It's called
Auto circ.
Yeah.
I believe that's one of the companies that actually makes it.
Is the auto circ?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
water
auto circ.
recirculation system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you some info on it.
I'd like it too, please. 'Cause
Certainly.
I noticed that in my sink in the bathroom at night.
just
The
takes
water,
forever.
the water
Yeah,
just does
yeah.
not heat up.
Yeah.
So Chris, you've done the 5-gallon bucket thing. How much water do you think it actually
Yeah.
goes into the bucket before the hot water starts running from your furthest?
You know, and
start?
I have a shower that's pretty bad, and it really only gets about 2 gallons by the time. It's not like the whole bucket is overflowing. There's
I'm gonna try that.
also
That'll be just a good gauge to
Yeah,
see. 'Cause
it'll tell you the answer. There's also technology that you can change out the shower fixture, and the shower itself will go down to a trickle once it achieves like 100 degrees or something like that, because it's basically telling you, okay, the hot water is here. So it goes to a trickle, and then to restart it, you have to pull kind of a chain to kind of kick it back over. It's another way, especially if that's going on at your house, because what you don't want to do, if you're waiting for the water to warm up, is show up 2 minutes late to when the water got warm.
Right.
So that's another technology.
It's not just for me, I'm just thinking multiply me by the number of
Yeah,
residents.
yeah, no, I understand.
But yeah, no, that's good to know.
Yeah, what's it's not the ice bucket challenge, but the
But it can be
just
cool.
the ice water challenge.
Do you
Just
really
get
gut it
in?
out? Do you really gut it out?
I seriously just gut it out.
No way.
And there's a certain amount of exhilaration from that. I know it doesn't sound like it,
If
but
it's salt water, that's different, but if it's clean.
there's
I don't
people
know.
that are, big proponents of, the cold water's really good for you. And I'm sure you've seen the people jumping in the ice lakes and stuff like that.
They
so.
do that once a year, not every day.
That's true.
That's a lot.
Good point.
That's a lot.
Yeah, the polar bear.
And that's an
plunge.
event.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, what a great question. Thank you for that discussion. Okay. Any other comments about water leaks on the customer side? Are we ready to move on to the meat and potatoes of the meeting?
That you're so looking forward to, I'm sure.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. Old business review of ordinance 216, business of the board.
Yeah, so we took this item to the committee before, and then we went to the board, and the board kicked it back to committee. I mean, I think we had it on a previous committee, most recent committee agenda, but we didn't get to it, right? We ran out of time, so it's back. So, variety of comments from the other 3 board members when we took this to the board. I don't remember them all, but I came away with thinking we need to do at least 2 things. One is we need to come up with a way of how we select a president, and the other is what are the duties of the president. There was some nibbling around the edges of other issues, but I think at least my recollection, and maybe Chris and James and Ann have some other thoughts too, but really that's what they spent the majority of the time talking about. I think Chris has some thoughts. So maybe my suggestion is to go, when we take this back to the board, let's give them some options and let them pick. Let's stick with the selection of the president. How do we do it? There's times where our normal practice, our rotation works well, and now we're at a point where there's a collision course with the ordinance, right? So we can probably revise the ordinance that addresses that and say, what do you do when there's going to be a collision course? And then regarding the duties of the president, we have a practice and we have the ordinance. The ordinance says that the president gets to select the committee assignments, period. Doesn't require approval by the board. But our practice has been that the president puts forth a slate of candidates and looks for the board's approval. I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but there's a bit of a conflict there. And it'd be nice if the ordinance was clear, and it'd probably be best if we followed the ordinance as written instead of deviating into a practice that's a little bit separate from that. So maybe I'll see, Chris, do you have any other recollections?
Well, and I did do some research on it and reached out to both Vista Irrigation District and Olivenheim Municipal Water District, and both of those agencies, and I can send you the text, I can email it to you, basically do vote, select the president by a vote, popularity contest, however you want to call it. That's how those 2 agencies do it. That can have a downside in that it just turns into a popularity contest and we don't really see a rotation. My thought for our board, with our desire to allow a new board member to have a turn at the president, is to make a sequence that adjusts that as a recommendation that, you know, in 2023 we have Division 5 be president. In 2024, it's Division 1, and then we just follow the sequence. You know, after Division 1, which is Director Pennock, it would go to 2, 3, 4, and 5 again. And so my real suggestion is that when a new board member, or board members plural, is elected, we in turn have the board vote a new sequence to determine the sequence to make sure that new board members are offered the opportunity to be board president within their 4-year term. And so the board would develop a sequence when new board members are elected, stick with that sequence, and then adjust it whenever a new board member comes on board, if that makes sense, if I'm making sense with my expression of my thought process.
Okay, I'll go. So I actually don't have an issue with the ordinance as it exists right now. I think it's very clear. I think that it's inclusive, and I think that it gives, the math of it works, and I don't see any reason to change it from how it exists right now with the selection of the president. Because the ordinance is clear. New board members get the opportunity to serve as president. And as new board members, that means that both Director Pennock and myself will have the opportunity to serve as president. I think that that's pretty clear. I think what we're tripping up over is that we have set up a collision. I think that we have set up a collision, and I don't think that necessarily we need to now modify anything to accommodate the collision that we have set up. I think that it works fine the way it is, and I'm hesitant to change it because as it is right now, it ensures that the 2 of us will have a shot at being president, and we have not had that shot yet. If we are going to vote on a sequence, there is opportunity there for folks to continue to vote on a sequence that excludes people that they don't want to be president. And that's what I am concerned about. So if we move the goalpost now, then I am concerned that there is opportunity for us to not enable the two of us to take a turn at being president. I'm saying the quiet parts out loud here. I'm saying what my concern is. I think it's fine as is. I don't think we need to accommodate the collision that we have set up. Those are my thoughts. I think the practice is inclusive right now, and it prevents a single person from being able to shape an agenda and exclude other people from being able to shape an agenda. We're all elected by our constituents, and that is that's the voice of those folks speaking because they like what we said we would do or what we promised. And I think it's appropriate to allow those those items to come forward. And then if we can work together to bring other members of the board on side with our votes, then it gets put through. Then it's incumbent upon us to do that work. But I love it that it's inclusive as it is. That's my thought.
And I think we need to do the duties first of the president, and then, because my understanding actually is, I don't know if I'm good with changing a sequence every 4 years or something like that. I'm good with just having a sequence, just 1 through 5 every time. And, I'm not so set on, I think what's getting us confused or having this collision course is a board member has the opportunity to be president during his first term. I'm not for that one, be honest, because we're just one voice. I mean, to me, a board president doesn't have the power to shape the board in any way because we're just one voice. I mean, we're on the phone with Glenn a little bit more, and we're we have these committee assignments. If we change those, that's just all a board decision. So I'm for just taking out every board member having the chance to be a president during their first term and just having a sequence. And sometimes that sequence is going to have the opportunity for a board member to be a president in their first term just based on sequential order. And sometimes it's not. So, and if they're not, then it just gives them incentive to run again in their second term, and they'll definitely be a president during their second term. But I'm just one to keep it real simple. A president, just keep it sequential. First, 1 through 5, and the board member moves down the road. And if I don't even know what districts, but how is it now? I mean,
what is the sequence?
Yeah.
So
what is the sequence?
Is there a sequence? Is it 1 through 5, or is it 1, 4,
I think
2?
I tracked it out as, I think Hal Martin was president in 2019, Betty Evans in 2020, and then Mike Sinella in 2021, Craig Elatharp in 2022.
Is that based on a sequence, though? Is that based on district
That's
numbers?
sort of the sequence that's been going.
It's not a numerical sequence. It doesn't go 1 through 5.
It goes
Okay.
5, 1,
1,
4,
4,
3, 2, 5, 1, 4, 3, 2, which doesn't make a lot of numerical sense.
And I don't care about the numerical sense or the numerical sense either way. I just think just keeping it sequential, just always the same without consideration as to a first term opportunity to be president.
So
That's why I think we're a little different on that. But I'm good with just keeping things simple. And again, I would just say sequential, and if a board, the first term it works. If it doesn't, oh well. I mean, I wouldn't mind not being president my first term if it works out sequential. I'm totally fine with that. It would just say, hey, if I really want to be president, I guess I got to run a campaign and serve again on a second term. So that's my 2 cents.
So I would support that as long as we continue with the sequence as it is. As long as we don't decide now to change the sequence and, for example, start with 4 or 3 or 2. Because again, I feel like we're having the discussion and there's the opportunity to move the goalposts. And I'm not happy about that because it directly impacts me and it directly impacts Director Pennock. So I would support that. as long as we continue with the sequence as is, and, you know, whether I'm next or whether Director Pennick is next, I don't have a preference either way for that, but as long as we continue with the sequence as we've been going, and then just keep it going. I would support that.
That would solve that problem, because I know Jim and Mike brought it up that he wanted that opportunity for everybody, and I know that, you know, that was a nice gesture, and but there's always going to be a collision course, regardless, whether it's now or 15 years down the road. There's always going to be, wait a minute, someone's not going to have the opportunity. So this will just do away with that, I think. It'll just take, like, I know Hernandez was saying, we're always going to have this situation, whether it's 4 years from now, 8 years from now, or whatever it is going to be. So that, I think, will take that out of it, and we'll just have it sequential, whatever that order may be.
Yeah, so to do that, we'd probably have to codify the order, because right now the ordinance does not talk about the order. So it's
Right, that's
silent.
why I think we didn't know about it.
Yeah.
I think that's the.
Right, so
yeah.
it's been this practice that's developed over time, which has served us well, quite frankly. This, at least since I've been here, this is the first time there's been this collision course. And
Which is 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah, 5.5 years.
Yes,
So
it's going to happen, yeah.
yeah, and it will. I can guarantee it will happen again in the future. So, and we have time to do a course correction without violating the ordinance. We're on a collision course. We haven't collided yet. So that's important. And
Got the airbags on, though.
yeah. So, and I think what this committee wants to do is to go back to the board with either a recommendation or with alternatives for the board to consider. So if you're both on, it sounds like you're kind of coalescing around the same point of view, we just need to make sure we're clear on what that is so that staff can prepare the staff report to go to the board and explain what the committee has recommended. And if that's to keep the current rotation, that's, I'm just doing a listening check here. If we keep the current rotation, I forget the order that Chris mentioned, and we can put those as names, and then the board can say, yeah, we'll keep that. And I think that would mean that Director Pennick would not have an opportunity. Is that how, if we kept it that order?
I think in 2024, it would be.
No, that, he would have the opportunity.
I'm trying to remember who's in it.
I think after, if we stick with the existing order where Director Elitharp is currently the president, the VP, which is Hernandez, would be in 2023.
No, that's not the rotation, though.
51432.
It would be, right, so it would be, Director Elitharp would finish out his term, then it would be me, and then it would be Director Pennick. And it satisfies the first term agreement. I mean, it satisfies that we would all be president.
Oh,
the new board members would
okay.
be president within the first
That's
term.
a different order, though.
Yeah, that's a different order than the practice that we were talking about.
Which is fine.
Oh, because you said 51432.
Yeah.
51432 is
Okay.
what we're currently doing.
Well, and Director Boyd Hodgson, that's fine. If the committee wants to say, we recommend the following sequential order of divisions, and we'll reshuffle the deck so that both Director Pennick and Director Boyd Hodgson get to sit in the next 2 years, and then the other three are in whatever other order we want, then the board approves that, and then that sequence would stay forever until there's a conflict. And that's what Chris was saying. If a new board member gets seated, and that new order would keep them out, right? They'd be on the 5th year and they wouldn't get it. And then at that point in time, the board could reshuffle the deck so that that new board member could get in their first 4-year term.
So just taking out names, right now, I mean, if we just use numbers, 51432 is where we're at? And what number is?
That's the sequence.
Right.
And we're on,
Three. And you're
we're on
what?
3.
You're 4?
Yeah, so next year would be 2.
No, I'm 5.
And then following year would be,
5.
and then within that 4-year term, Director Pennick would miss out.
Right.
I'm good with that. Seriously, I mean, if we've been doing 54132, let's just, that way, I don't know, I'd like to take the names out of it, just say, hey, 51432, and whoever
And we agree with you, it'd be good if we just put an order by division,
Yes,
and that'll solve the problem for foreseeable future.
yeah.
So
if we just do a 51432 order, and that's
And it repeats.
And it just repeats, regardless of term. First year
I hear that, and I appreciate that you're flexible, but that directly impacts me.
Does that not put you, because right now we're at 3.
You would be president,
In
Not next year, but the year after
yeah,
that.
in
Who's number
24,
2? Who's 2, right? I don't even know who.
Hernandez.
That's Hernandez.
So it would go Hernandez, then you would be in your last term.
Yeah.
So when we've had this discussion before, there was talk about the next president being me, Division 5. So was that an error?
I don't think staff ever made that recommendation.
Okay.
All we did is we let out, if we kept with the current rotation, it would violate the ordinance and Director Pennock would be on the out, which would mean you'd be on the inside, Director Boyd Hodgson,
Yeah.
whether you're next year or in 24, either one would satisfy for your needs, but it would
It would just
require
be
a
a year
change in
later
order.
than what you were probably expecting.
Yep. I'm okay with that. I'm okay if we do that.
Keep the current practice, codify the current division rotational
Sequence,
practice.
yeah.
With numbers.
With numbers.
I mean, there's no collision course in the future then.
In the right, if it
Just
happens
is what it
later
is.
on, then we'll course correct at that point in time. And even then, if you get a new director that comes in and they're like, oh, I'm in the 5th rotation, you'll still have 4 years to correct it. You don't have to correct it the day after the
And it could
election.
be a guy comes in his first year, he could be the president, year 1, and it's kind of, hey, that's all right, baptism by fire.
And
Go
that's
for
another
it.
good point. Do you want that? A brand new person, their first time on an elected body, and hey, you're president.
Why not?
Congratulations. And that's fine.
New thoughts, new opinions. He's not, there's
Yeah.
no outside influences. Let's just go for it.
I'm okay with that because I feel like staff is very capable, and I think staff really shepherds us along as board members. And
Well, that's why I thought we could do the duties first, the duties of the president before doing this, because, I mean, if you've been elected in, you have some type of, you kind of know what you're doing, a little bit. Not in the boardroom, but, you learn and you do it. And again, what's the duties of the president? I mean, that's what you wanted to clarify, right? Duties and order. And I think we're doing this
Yeah.
out of order. If we did the duties first, then it would help us understand
Yeah.
the sequence and
I think we already
how
did
important that.
Yeah, I think we already did the order. To me, it sounds like, and the
I'm good-
duties.
I'm good with it. If I don't know, I'd love to hear your opinions, though. What do you guys think of that?
I think going with the sequence works well. It leaves Director Pennock out of being a president within his first
I'll be
term.
good. My
But
fifth
if you're
term.
okay with that,
My 5th year, I'll be a president.
Yeah.
exactly. And
I like that.
that's all good. And then the sequence just is what it is. And we just codify it.
I'm good with that. What you are?
are you sure you're good with that?
Oh, 100%. No problem.
Yeah, and just
I
to
have
bring
zero
this
concerns
up,
about that.
if you change your mind the following year, the board's already approved the rotation, you'd be out, right? Just so,
Totally.
okay.
And I don't see it as me being out. I don't have to have a little gap, I am good on the side over here, just approving. I'm not good with calling meetings to order. I'm good with just,
Okay.
yeah. So, to me, that, again, the duties of the president, I don't know. I don't see them as that.
Yeah, so maybe that's a good time to
I mean,
transition.
We're one voice. There's still,
Yeah.
the president's still one voice on a board of 5. He cannot, and it does not have ultimate power to do anything, to be honest. We can all put things on the agenda. We can all, I feel like I can do as much as Craig can, to be honest. That's why.
Yeah.
There's nothing more.
The biggest difference is probably the appointment to committees.
Right.
And that's probably
And
something we
and
need to
even
focus
then,
on.
we have a chance. He calls, what do you want to be on? And then that has to be board approved. I think we're going to change that where that has to be almost board approved.
And that's the direction I'd like from the two of you, because right now the ordinance does not require approval of the president's recommended slate of candidates. The ordinance says the president shall determine committee assignments, period. He doesn't need a majority vote. If you're comfortable with that, we can keep it the way it is. If you want to change the ordinance to more closely reflect our practice, we can do that as well. That the president can put forth a slate of candidates that will be voted upon. But then what happens if he can't get majority approval? What's the process? That's when the ordinance section starts to get longer and longer, right? Tiebreakers and all this stuff that right now we don't worry about. Yes, our practice is slightly different than the ordinance, but if we want to take this opportunity to clean that up, we can do that.
Okay, so duties of the president.
So what else does the president do? They preside over the meeting, obviously. They represent the district at various functions. They're kind of the go-to person. If there's an event, Chris is going to get hold of the president first. The president may defer to somebody else, and I think recently the president deferred to Director Sinella to go to something at the city of San Marcos, so that works fine too. The ordinance says the president shall work with the general manager to establish the agenda. In reality, that doesn't happen. We usually set the agenda. We get input from the president and the board members as to what's on an upcoming agenda. The GM working with staff sets the agenda, and then the Monday before the meeting, I'll meet with the president to go over the agenda, say, hey, here's what's on the agenda. But they don't meet with me to say, what do we want to put on the agenda this week? That's, I think, under the authority of the president. If the president wanted to meet early with me, but that has to be pretty early because it takes time to put the board packet together. And that's about it. It's not a long list of, and then the committee assignments. So there's not a whole list of duties that the president has. It's pretty short. And they get one vote, right? For all other items, they don't get 2 votes or anything. They get 1 vote, just like the other 4 board members. So at a minimum, I'd like clarity on the committee assignments. Are we okay with the president having the unilateral authority, or should the language be changed to say the president will recommend a slate of candidates? And I'll pause there and see what you guys think about that one facet.
I like the idea of the proposal and a vote.
Okay.
I mean, I do like that. I think it's, I think it encourages communication. So I like that idea.
Me too. And the practice now is the president reaches out to each committee member, hey, which one do you want to be on? And
Yep.
usually it's discussed beforehand anyways, and we're just kind of approving it. But there could be some where, and I know we had a little minor discussion even now, hey, I want to be on a GPAC, and can you want to switch and this and that? And that can be discussed at something like that after the president brings forth the recommendation. But I'm good with the recommendation for the president and then approval by the board. And you're right, it could get sloppy every once in a while, but there's 3-2 vote, and you vote on it, and you present it again, and you keep going until you hash it out.
Yeah, government also often gets messy. It happens from time to time. But we're a very collegial group, and I think that's why our practice has deviated a little bit from the ordinance, that the president has been good about reaching out to the other board members saying, what would you like to be on? And then they put something out there and they look for approval.
See, we set the standard high, now everybody else after us
Yeah,
has to
there you
keep
go.
that same cordial
Yeah.
board member.
So we'll take a shot at the ordinance language to more closely reflect the practice. And that's what I'm hearing, that we'd like the ordinance, our practice to be really what we do. So we can do that.
Are you good with that? That sounds,
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good with that.
Anything else, like with the setting of the agenda? One other item, and I don't remember if we addressed this before, having an item added to a future agenda. Is a simple request by a board member at a board meeting enough, or does that require a second and a vote, or at least one other supporting member? Often, many other agencies, you have to have at least one other voice of support to have an item on a future agenda. And the reason that came about, and this is anecdotal talking to other GMs, is because one board member may have a particular issue and they wanted to keep discussing it. And the other 4 were done, but the other one could keep putting it on the agenda. So they wanted some way to say, no, you need at least one other person to support that. So you can't have one board member hijacking any meetings. So that's the reason for that. I don't think our ordinance is real clear. It says a director may request that an item be placed on a future agenda. It doesn't say that request translates to being on the agenda. It just says they may request. So we probably need to clarify that. We have that section, I forget, section 4 or 5 of the board agenda. It says items for future agenda. And that's where this actually translates. That's where the rubber hits the road. At a board meeting, somebody will say, hey, I think we should talk about this at a future meeting. If it's dead silence, if the other 4 board members don't want to talk about it, the fact that 5th board member brought it up, should it automatically be on the agenda? And that's what we'd like some clarity so that we can go back to the board and see if the board wants to clarify that in the way the committee recommends.
Are we having trouble with this though? I mean, I think it's working pretty well as is.
No, but, and that's an interesting, the way you phrase that is interesting. Reviewing these, we try to put things together to prevent issues in the future, not wait till a problem happens and then correct it. And that's, I think staff has received some criticism for that too, is how did we let this happen? It's like, well, it could happen in the future, and it'd be nice if the board made a conscious thought before it becomes an issue so that we know how to handle it in the future. They can say, hey, the ordinance says you have to have a second to have that item be placed on the agenda or not. But if it's the or not, then you need to be clear. Is a simple request by one board member enough to have an item placed on a future board agenda? And it's that simple,
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I could go either way. I think there's nothing preventing someone to continue to request things to be on, even if there is no second. You know, sometimes there might not be appetite to take something up at one time, but it could be brought up again, and maybe the appetite has changed. I could go either way.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either. I mean, I don't have a problem as it is. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying down in the future as an opportunity for a board member just to itemize the heck out of a board meeting. And then that they're just.
Well, let's role play a little. You're the general manager, and there's a meeting, and a board member says, "I'd like to talk about this at a future meeting." No other board member says anything. As a GM, what should I do? What are my guidelines? Oh, I heard Director A say they wanted that, so I'm going to put it on there. None of the other directors expressed interest. So I just want to make sure that we're clear, because it certainly sets up expectations, because Director A is going to say, but at that last meeting, I said I wanted this on the agenda. Does that mean it automatically goes on the agenda? That's the clarity I'm looking for. And I'm fine either way. I don't have a dog in the fight. If just bringing it up means it goes on the agenda, that's fine. The ordinance is vague right now. It just says a director may request, and that's all it says.
So let me ask you this, as a GM, what would you prefer?
I'd prefer that there would probably be a second. I'd like to know that there's some general support. Otherwise, it takes staff a lot of time to prepare an item to come forward. And if it's dead on arrival, if nobody else was interested in it, what was the point, right? I'm just being blunt here. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to know that there's at least some interest by at least one other board member, preferably more. I think a majority is too much, but I think at least one other show of support. Yes, I support Director A's recommendation that be on a future board.
Same as an AGM. Yeah, I mean, are you feeling the same?
Yes, overall, I mean, in years past, we've had directors bring up certain items, and then it took a lot of staff time to bring that up. And when it came to the board, that was the only director that wanted to hear it, and it kind of just died on the vine. But it took probably 40 to 60 hours of preparation and to get all the information over. So if there was definitely appetite, we know that at least this is something that the board is interested in, and staff is spending time on something that's not only meaningful to this one board member, but perhaps the entire board.
So as long as there are two board members, then it would be that's considered appetite.
To me, that's enough. It says, okay, there's an issue there.
And so how would that look? I mean, so say Director Boyd-Hodgson, she wants something on the agenda. You would call one of the other four and say, hey, Director Boyd-Hodgson wants to talk about this. Do you agree with this?
No, I would write at the meeting if okay, are you talking about offline of the meeting?
Offline, if somebody wants to put something on.
If it's at a board meeting and Director Boyd-Hodgson brought up something, I would want support immediately right at that same meeting.
Okay.
That maybe
by at
the
least
president,
just one other board member.
Maybe the president would say, does anybody else support that motion?
Is there a second?
Is there a
to
second?
Put that
Yes,
on a future
boom,
agenda?
it's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's offline, if I get a phone call and says, hey, Glenn, I'd really like this to be on a future
Does that
agenda.
happen? Like, is that?
It's happened.
Okay, I didn't know that happened.
In my
I didn't think that was
In my
proper.
my advice to the directors in that situation is they said, you should bring that up at the next board meeting during section 5 or whatever. That's your opportunity to bring it up, because otherwise it puts me and the organization in a really bad place where there's all these kind of perceived backroom deals where people are getting things added to the agenda. And I don't think that's good governance. So my advice, if either of you called me and said, I want this to be on the agenda, that's what I'm going to tell you. You should bring that up at the next board meeting. And then at that board meeting, you get a second and boom, then it's on the agenda.
And a second would put that on the agenda. That's all.
If that's what you wanted to say. You're asking my opinion, that's enough. At least one other person. I know a close friend who's a board member at another district. and he has another board member that constantly brings up the same issue time and time again, and
Never
they've
gets a
addressed
second.
it, but they keep bringing it back up, and he's like, how do we prevent that from happening? So they change where they require a second. And he said it works so much better. It diffuses that single issue from just recurring and recurring.
I think I'm fine with having a second.
Yeah.
I don't think it diffuses that issue. I think if you have someone that's very perseverative about a specific issue, they're going to keep bringing it up. And then they will use that as, I can't get any support for this. This is my single issue. Look, people that voted for me, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, It could go either way, but I think it's reasonable, especially given the amount of time that staff may have to spend on an issue, and staff always does a very thorough job. We've seen the job that they do. So I think it's reasonable. I think, but I'll ask another question. If it is something that is better served in a committee, how do we handle that, for example? Or do we bring it up, is the process that, someone says, I would like to see this on the agenda. The president says, is there a second? Someone says, yes, I'd like to see it too. It comes up on a future agenda, and then at that time, there's a discussion about, oh, well, maybe this is better served by going to the X committee, and then it's referred out to a committee. Because I think we might want to put that in there too, just to, I know we're adding layers and layers, but that would further clarify it.
Yeah, I think in real time, I think that'd be best to happen at the very first meeting. Just say, hey, that's a good item, but let's send that right to the committee first. We'd like to have the committee's thoughts before it comes to the board. That'd probably be something good to put in the ordinance, that during the meeting when the item is added, a decision is made whether it's coming back to the board or if it's going to a committee. And that brings up a whole other topic about the nature of our committees. Some agencies, committees only exclusively deal with issues that were directed to them. And some agencies have committees that are self-directed, for lack of a better term, that they can come up with their own topics to bring forward. Neither is right or wrong, it's just they're different. This committee tends to be more self-directed. The board doesn't direct things, with rare exceptions. Occasionally they do, but usually it's the committee comes up with the items. And others, they don't do that at all. They said, nope, the board directs items to the committee. So I don't think we need to go off the deep end on that thing, but I think there is an opportunity to bypass the board, send it right to committee so that it's easier to hash things out at this level. It's more informal, easier to have the conversations, and the board gets the benefit of that conversation instead of just a staff perspective.
I think that should be put to a vote, whether or not to push it to a committee or not.
At the board meeting?
Yeah, if it is, if there's chatter about, well, maybe that's better served in a committee, I think it should be put to a vote.
Yeah, and we probably, at some point, we're crossing into legal issues where we may have to get gilpins. It's an unagendized item that you're taking a vote, and can you really do that? But it's a good point. I'll talk with Mr. Gilpin about that. But I think at a bare minimum, allowing an item to be added to the agenda, and we can informally say, hey, we recommend maybe that'd be good for this committee to see first. And that would be good enough direction for me. Then I could add it to a committee agenda as opposed to a board agenda.
It gives you guidance on where to put it. Yep.
Particularly if the person who made the recommendation is supportive of that. They may say, no, I don't want that to go to committee. I want it to go to the board. But usually a committee or a board member will say, oh yeah, it can stop by the committee on the way to the board. But we'll see. There's no way to write these things so they're foolproof, and we'll do the best that we can.
That's the trickiness of it.
So big picture question, I think we've gotten some pretty good direction. Do you want to see the language, do the two of you want to see the language at a committee meeting before they go to the board? Or you can be surprised and see it in the board packet, or we could just send you the language informally beforehand so you're aware of what's in it, so you don't have to wait till the agenda gets posted. It's just a time element, right? So it's going to take us, we can put it on this same issue on the, April, on the May policy committee, and we can come back with draft language to address the issues we've talked about, or we can go right to the board and hope that we captured your thoughts.
Well, I'm comfortable with it going to the board. That's fine, because we'll discuss it then too.
Yeah.
And we can, if it's not what we expected, then we can make adjustments there.
Yeah, if we didn't capture your thoughts correctly, you could say, well, that's not exactly what we said, and we can correct it on the fly, right? we would take it forward in a format that hopefully it gets approved as is. We take a proposed revision to ordinance 216, everybody loves it, including the committee members, and then the board approves it at that meeting and we're done. What's more likely to happen is there'll be a few tweaks, change that word, add this word, boom, and then the board can either approve it on its face with the changes noted, and then the board doesn't need to see it again, or it may have to go back to the board. So.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking specifically this or any
Any,
other? Okay, yeah.
just in general, but
I
it
mean,
would apply to
I
this
would
one.
defer to your judgment on that. I mean, I know you
Yeah.
guys do
Well,
a great job, so defer to your judgment. Some you might want to bring to the committee and some you take straight to
Yeah,
the board.
I
But I'd defer to your.
I think the direction was clear enough. We may go back and listen to the tape and realize, oh, that's not what I remember hearing. We often do that. Ann goes through the minutes and I read the minutes. It's like, is that really what they said? It's like, yep, that's what they
Oh,
said.
that would, yeah, I couldn't do that.
So
Second guess myself all the time.
when we leave here, we'll go forward with the assumption that we're going to take it right to the board. We will share the proposed language with the two of you before the meeting, and then we'll hopefully get it approved at the board meeting. And if not, it'll get minor corrections.
And with the clarification I was writing down, as far as the vice president, I don't, we didn't talk about that at all. Does that follow the same sequence?
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. That would be my recommendation.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, that they're one.
Staggers one
Just
behind.
the 1 year behind.
Yeah, one year
sequential.
behind, right.
So that the VP usually becomes so I would be happy to be your vice president in the next sequence, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. The other option, other agencies, the president gets to select their vice president. I'm not
Right.
trying to dissuade you from your position. That's, other agencies do it that way.
And I'm good either way, but I like the sequential thing. It takes, I don't know, just takes the politics, as much as politics as this is, it takes politics out of
And
it.
quite frankly, I think that's why we've adopted this rotational practice. There's a nicety about the person being vice president, then becoming president. That ascendancy in office, I think, is helpful. They're called on from time to time to serve in that capacity. They're probably better prepared. It's not a popularity contest. You don't develop cliques in terms of who supports who. So I like it, and we can have the ordinance reflect that as well.
Okay,
If you're good with that.
I'm good.
That was fun. Yeah.
A blast.
From staff, so I'll look at Ann and James and Chris. Is there any items on the 216 that were brought up before that we should address here?
No, I think got good clarity to put this thing together and bring it to the board. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing it back.
And,
Yeah, adding the agenda and having a second, that's the thing I was.
okay, good. And hopefully the board sees it the same way. Yeah, there were some comments made that we need to redo the whole thing, and I think Director Pennick said, no, we just need to correct the issues that need to be corrected. So hopefully when we bring it back and we focus on the bigger issues, they'll be comfortable that we don't need to dissect the whole ordinance. Because there's a lot of other things we never even talked about in Ordinance 216.
I think we did get clarity on removing some of the things. I think we got agreement on, we struck out some of the information. I think we did get.
We did, like the Water Authority
Agreement.
Encina Wastewater Authority rep, we struck that, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're close.
I think it's good. And I agree with Director Pennick that we didn't need to blow it up.
Yeah.
And, we, in our roles on this committee, I think that it is, it's our decision about what it looks like when it leaves. And I don't think we needed to blow it up either.
Yep. Okay,
All good?
I think that's it for
Everybody
that
good?
item, then.
Okay. All right. The next meeting date is May the 2nd. Any other final comments or questions, concerns?
Is the committee comfortable conducting the meetings in the chambers here? Is that your preference?
I could go either way, either here or if we wanted to have it in a conference room, that's okay, as long as it's open to the public. I mean, I think that we
Yeah.
want to maintain that transparency.
Yeah, I guess I would suggest when we're still in this kind of COVID world with social distancing, we shouldn't go upstairs. It's too small of a room. I don't think either of you have been upstairs. There's an upstairs conference room we used to use for a lot of our committee
Okay.
meetings, either here or in the training room in the back that have more space.
And I think we need Zoom capabilities also for hybrid meetings. So not all
Yeah.
conference rooms may accommodate that.
So maybe we need
Okay.
to look at our IT guy to say, what issues does this raise?
Yeah, I think we can allow for
kind of audio, but no video in the conference rooms upstairs. We kind of did a little bit of a hybrid one in the training room, which is kind of a webcam setup, and that actually works fairly well. So that's able to be done. It's not as clean, obviously, as something in here, so.
Well, would it just be easier to keep having them here?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's-
From a technical standpoint, it's already here and ready to go.
Yep.
But we can make it work.
Okay, well then,
That's fine.
what do you, I mean, I'm happy to see
Yeah, I
you.
mean, what did you do before COVID?
We never met, committees never met here. We were in the upstairs conference room.
Always.
And
So the only reason we're down here is for technological reasons.
Well, in COVID-related issues
And
too.
because of, right. How many
Yeah.
does that accommodate up there, the conference room?
It's technically probably like 12, but it's a long conference table. It's tight.
This is nice and comfortable here, huh?
Well,
Yeah,
you
and
look-
I don't have opinion either way. I'm
Yeah, we got 7 right here, and if we had a couple more staff members, all of a sudden you're up to 10 or 12 people, and you put them in a small conference room, you're shoulder to shoulder around this table.
And there's no opportunity for the public really to,
They're welcome. There are seats not at the table, kind of back in the corners, and we've had
Okay.
members of the public come to attend more finance committee than policy committee meetings, but it's even tighter. And the reason I bring this up is because there was criticism in the past when we had committee meetings in the back training room. I don't think you've been back there either, but it's not as accessible to the public. Public's welcome, but you have to walk through the staff hallways and stuff. And there was these kind of allegations of smoky back rooms, so we decided, let's just bring it out in the bright lights and here, just do it here.
do we have an elevator in this building?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right outside to the left there, it takes you upstairs, so.
Okay.
But in the future, if we want to go, in a post-COVID world, if we want to go back to less formal, I like the conference room because it's less formal, it's easier to dialogue. But this has been fine, so I don't have any problem, I just want to get your thoughts on it.
I don't have a strong opinion, but it seems like for now, this is easier, so
Yep.
let's just
We'll stay here.
keep it
Just
here.
bring a conference table in and we'll just set it up there.
We thought about that too, but then with the microphones, and it's just easier to just keep people, since it's already pre-wired, that's what we were first gonna do, put a conference table, just have people sit around it, and the cameras and the mics, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not, no strong opinion either.
Okay,
Okay,
We'll
so I
stay
guess,
here?
I guess we'll just stay here.
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, thanks, everyone. Thanks for your work. Thanks for coming in today, and it's, as always, nice to see everybody. Welcome back, Lynn, from your vacation.
thank you.
And I guess next meeting date, May 2nd, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.